Well, hello! It's your boy, a friend Sunoco, coming at you from the home of the king, the birthplace of the blues, Memphis, Tennessee. Been a while, been probably a couple months. To tell you what, I am here at the corner of Mulberry and G.E. Patterson, just down from the Amtrak train. And you can probably see the Amtrak building right there. That is our station. I broke my Amtrak cherry. And I've lived in Memphis my whole life, but the reason why it took so long is because the service here is abysmal. I took a train in May to New Orleans, which is the only service. There's only one train a day that takes me down to New Orleans, and I went to go see The Warning, which is a Mexican all-girl rock band from one of my near and dear cities, near the birthplace of my parents. Monterey is where they're from, or just outside. It's actually probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to. For sure, one of the best concerts I've been to, and I've been to some good ones. Yeah, so that building at the bottom floor is where the Amtrak train station is in Memphis, and this is conveniently down from that sports bar right there, which is still open when you roll into town about 10:30 at night. Coming in from New Orleans, and soon after, about 11, this train that stops here for about half an hour for breaks rolls northward to Chicago, and it'll get you to Chicago around 8 a.m. after rolling out of here at 11 at night, which is a pretty good deal to sleep on. But however, that's the only direction. It's the City of New Orleans train. The only way it runs is north and south through Memphis. What you can't do by train, you cannot go to St. Louis. You cannot go to Nashville, which is 3 hours away by car. You cannot go to Little Rock, which is 2 hours away by car from where I'm standing, and that's a shame. Why is this such a shame? Because then it connects you to train bound for Dallas, Texas, and the West Coast. So that is terrible. There's a campaign to get us some service to Nashville and Little Rock on the next expansion of Amtrak service, which our congressman Cohen is trying to procure for us. I think it'd be wonderful because we need it. We need a way to avert all this truck traffic, all this heavy truck traffic that is on the route to Nashville or on the route to Little Rock, because this Mississippi River crossing is full of 18-wheelers, and it's actually quite disruptive and dangerous. But I'll tell you one thing I have not done yet in my life, now that I've checked off the train. There you go. Somebody's making a weekend of it. Excellent. One thing I've not done is go to Cancun, and I have a little interest in going to Cancun because, as y'all might know, I'm Mexican American. I'm very bilingual, bicultural, and I wouldn't want to go someplace and just run into a bunch of Americans if I go to Mexico. But I mention that because the fact that they're getting a train. If you've been to Tulum, they're also getting the same train, but they're getting a new airport because the Cancun airport is crowded. And to get an airport at Tulum to service basically the southern end of the same resort complex is key, and it's wonderful. And they're getting a nice brand new one. And it'll be run by and for the benefit of the Army of Mexico, which is good because they have all the incentives to then keep it safe, right? Oh, by the way, I'm walking down towards my vehicle right now, this Sunday, September 3rd. And you have the Lorraine Motel down there, which is, of course, the home of the National Civil Rights Museum, and unfortunately the place where Dr. King was assassinated one April 4th, 1968. Sad day. People have accused me of being old enough to remember that day, but that's not true. Nope. But anyhow, so about this Maya train. This train is a point of contention. And I want to tell you why it's a point of contention. The business interests of the United States, ever since like the 1870s for sure, during the time of Porfirio Diaz, have predominantly been to where Mexican industry and Mexican state-owned enterprises, well, Mexican state-owned enterprises were non-existent until about 100 years later. And so basically the relationship between Mexico and the United States has been where Mexico has either mostly been a client state of U.S. business interests in exchange for payoffs to Mexican political donors, to the Mexican government, or Mexican politicians to U.S. business interests. So they kept Mexico small and technologically backwards. In fact, this came to an extreme in the run-up to NAFTA, when many of the disinvestments in Mexican state-owned enterprises occurred, mostly in the case of, like say, for sure the steel mill that's in my parents' hometown, which is in the news again. The passenger rail, which was the whole kit and caboodle, commercial and passenger rail, was sold to Kansas City Southern for a song. Everything was sold for a song back in the 90s. And so what was important about this is that basically it raised some money for Mexican politicians, and it got U.S. business interests and other local prominent Mexican interests favorable positions where they no longer had to compete with Mexican state-owned enterprises. And so tourism is a sore spot for the United States, because tourism signifies an outflow of dollars. The more tourists go to Mexico, the more demand there is for pesos, and the stronger there is the pesos relative to all currencies. The more American tourists go to Mexico, the more specifically the US dollar is weakened versus the peso, because basically US citizens have to transact in US pesos in order to get things done, directly or indirectly, when they come to Cancun or Tulum. Now, there's I will tell you that a lot of the scares about the dangers of certain cartels, certain parts of Mexico, are overstated. The effect of which is to dampen tourism in the many parts of Mexico that that would get tourists. I will tell you also that there's been some encouragement by the American government to slow down or eliminate certain developments. The American government has told Mexico to not build that refinery in Tabasco. The American government has wanted to get advantageous, secure for U.S. business interests, advantageous access to the industrial development along the isthmus, which will replace the Panama Canal. Read up on that later. And the American government has tried to get Mexico to not build this train, this Maya train, basically, which will take you from Cancun all the way to Palenque, which is a big Mayan site in the northern state of what is Chiapas, near the isthmus. That is a 12-hour ride by car, and that's halfway between Cancun and Mexico City. The deal, though, is that this train is going to reduce it by a lot, probably 8 hours, but down to 8 hours or less. It will be a faster train that will get at top speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. It is a modern train, passenger train. It will connect a lot of archaeological sites around the Yucatan Peninsula to Palenque on the west and to Tulum and Cancun on the east. It will join the communities and offer very cheap service to the communities in these places. Now, tourists will have to pay more to get the train, but it's well worth it because it will connect. If you're coming to Cancun and you want to go to Tulum, you want to go to Calakmul, you want to go to Campeche City, you want to go to Palenque, all these, Merida, which is a great colonial city. It's hot though. You will be able to visit all these sites, and you will be able to see a Disney World-like development, all in Maya land, basically connected by train. And your stay is going to be longer. You will spend more money. This part of Mexico, this forgotten part of Mexico, will attract a lot more money, and it will continue to attract more residents. So it will basically attract a lot more capital, more dollars exchanged for pesos, which is going to strengthen the peso. And will attract a lot of people who are pro-Mexico because they have an affinity connection, probably some stake in Mexico from outside of Mexico. Not good for policy flexibility of the United States, and not good for the dollar. Okay. But I'll tell you what, when it comes around to after December, when this train starts, I'm going to go to Cancun or Tulum, probably Tulum, and I'm going to ride this train and take it around a few places. I'm going to go there for the first time, and I'm going to take it to some of the archaeological sites. I'm more Chichen Itza. I forgot to mention that one. That's down there, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But yeah, and it's a stop. It's a stop along this train. And I mean, why not? Imagine just getting to skip a car and just, you know, sit back and sip tequila on the way and see all these things between Palenque and Tulum or Cancun. Take the north loop to Merida, or the southern loop along Guatemala. But I mean, hey, bucket list. Thanks to the development that was promised by the current president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and he's going to get it done because before he gets out of office in a year, because this will be done by December. But maybe I'll see some of you there. Anyway, so I'm your guy who gives you the good news about Mexico that you never hear, for obvious reasons. So this is a friend Tinoco coming at you from downtown Memphis, Tennessee, thinking about my next train trip, and this one's going to be through Mexico. Bye-bye.